If you want to make money from illustration, you've got to do some marketing. If you don't, no one will ever know you exist. Marketing covers all the different things you can do to promote your work and get it in front of clients so they'll hire you. Now, if you're a big business, marketing can cover a hell of a lot of complicated things, but for a freelance illustrator, there's really only 5, maybe 4 things you need to think about. And these basics do 80% of the heavy lifting, and they'll be a great foundation for you to build on. Basically, what we're doing when I say marketing is making ourselves more visible to clients and other people too. The more people know you exist, the better chance you've got of getting hired. All of these can work, and you'll probably use a mix of all of them. So let's get into it. The first one is warm outreach. This is when you look through your phone contacts or email inbox to see who you know already and you get in touch. They are warm leads because they know who you are. You've communicated in the past, and assuming you haven't done anything to offend them, they'll be happy to hear from you. If these people hire illustrators, you might simply be asking if they're hiring at the moment. So when you've worked with a client already, it's good practice to keep in touch every now and again to keep that relationship warm. But don't discount the people you know who don't hire illustrators. You could get in touch to ask if this person knows anyone who might be looking for some creative work doing. You can tell them you're starting your illustration career and you're hoping to make some connections. If they like you, they'll at least think about it. Not everybody is going to know someone who might be interested in what you've got to offer, but some of them will. You've got to be pretty bold to ask these kinds of favors of people, but if you need the work, you've got to do what you've got to do. For example, I have a class full of people I went to university with. A lot of them are now working in advertising, graphic design, web design, marketing. In theory, I could get in touch with any of them for a catch-up and tell them I'm launching my freelance illustration business and ask if they know anyone who might be interested. Now, that's not actually realistic in my case because I haven't seen any of those people for 15 years, so they're not relationships that I've kept warm, but you get the idea. So depending on who you get in touch with, you're either asking for work or asking for a referral or even just a sort of a hot tip on who you could send your work to. The next one is cold outreach. This is getting in touch with people who you don't know, and this makes up a big chunk of most illustrators' marketing at the start of their careers. You look up companies and art directors who hire illustrators online, then you get in touch with them to show them your portfolio by email, DM, phone, or I guess sending mail outs falls into this category too. Most illustrators are doing some of this. Most illustrators could be doing more of this, but it's slow and it's hard. It's boring, repetitive, and soul-crushing work because you don't get a lot of replies or encouragement along the way. Remember, these people don't know who you are, so the chance of them replying is pretty slim. But after 5 or 6 emails over the course of a year or two, they'll come to recognize you and your work and they'll start warming up a bit, especially if your work is really good. Cold outreach is not a fun task, but it is an important part of the mix of things that you can do to make yourself known to clients. If you've been struggling to stay consistent with cold outreach, let me know in the comments. I think just about everybody watching this will be finding it difficult. So add a comment below and you'll see that we are really all in it together. And if you want some tips on emailing clients, check out this video. So these two are a similar process. They are one-to-one. You're getting in touch with one person at a time. It's cheap, it's easy, but it's slow, and it doesn't always feel like a worthwhile exercise. It takes some serious grit and consistency for it to pay off. The next 3 are one-to-many, which means you do one task, and that means your work has the potential to be seen by hundreds or thousands of people at once. Advertising is something most businesses do. For big brands, it might be billboards or TV ads, but for the likes of us, the extent of the advertising we do might be limited to boosting an Instagram post every once in a while. I boosted an Instagram post about my book, The Illustrator's Guide, a month or so ago. I paid about £40 to boost it for a week, and I probably sold 6 or 7 more books in that week than I usually would have. I'll probably boost that post again or something similar just before Christmas when I know people are looking around for gifts to buy people. I also use Amazon ads, so for every $1 I spend there, I make $2 in sales, which is okay, but it takes regular tweaking and adjusting, and I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. An expert would be expecting a far better return on their investment, but at least I'm not losing money. In the past, I've experimented with ads for different things and wasted so much money because making good ads is a whole other skill that takes time and money to learn. So I don't recommend using ads as part of your day-to-day marketing strategy, especially if you're a beginner. You'll almost definitely waste more money than you make back from it for a while. It's impractical for new artists, expensive and risky if you don't know what you're doing. However, if you post something on Instagram and it does really well organically, and you see in your insights that it's getting you lots of new followers or clicks through to your portfolio, then you can be reasonably confident that putting some money behind it would take it to the next level and introduce your work to lots of new people. So it's completely optional. Use it sparingly and don't spend more than you can afford. But if you see a good opportunity and want to experiment by boosting a post that's already performing well, you can give it a try. The next way you can introduce your work to lots of people at once is to create a portfolio on a website that's already getting a lot of traffic. When you appear on these websites, you borrow the credibility of that well-established site or company, and your work gets more visibility because there are already clients looking at it every day. So this is portfolio platforms like The Workbook, Hire Illo, Illustrators for Hire, the AOI Folios, and 3x3 magazine has one now too. I'll link to all of them down below. You pay a fee to appear on these portfolio directory websites, and in theory, get more eyes on your work. I've used a couple of them, results definitely vary, but if you get one job from one of these sites in a year, then it pays for itself. And maybe, if you're lucky, you'll get a much better return on your investment. But this also goes for illustration agencies. Agency websites are hubs of professional illustrators' portfolios. Clients go there to browse styles and to get recommendations. Simply appearing on an illustration agency website can give your career a real boost, even if the agents weren't doing any other promotion, because they already get a lot of traffic from art directors. If you want to be represented by an illustration agency, you've got to be good. So it might not be a realistic opportunity for you right now if you're fairly new to the industry, but potentially something worth aiming for. The last part of this marketing recipe is content creation. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Medium, Substack, YouTube, anywhere you can write or post about your work or talk about your work online where there's an existing audience of people who might see it. This one takes time, but it's free, and anything you post has the opportunity to be discovered by hundreds or thousands of people. It is something you should be doing as part of your marketing, but it's not the whole story. Creating good content is a skill that has to be learned, and there's a lot of experimentation and time that goes into that. But I think it's worth it. That's why I'm still on YouTube after almost 5 years. At the start of the year, I wrote every day on Threads for about 6 weeks. I wrote on LinkedIn every day for 30 days. And maybe you've seen me trying some new things out on Instagram recently. I'm experimenting to find out what works, what my audience resonates with, what I should do more of, and what doesn't work too. You can't really guess. You've got to try lots of things out and gather the data, then use that to inform whatever you make next. One illustration that you post on Instagram is content. It's just not a very good piece of content in terms of holding people's attention, so it probably won't perform that well. If you're interested in making more engaging social media content, I've got a video all about that up here. I'll link to it in the description too. It's got the results of my various social media experiments from earlier in the year, and I'll probably do a follow-up about Instagram Reels soon too. So those are the 5 things you can get started with to make yourself more visible to clients and new fans and followers, and to be as visible and as findable as possible in an ocean of other artists. You'll probably be doing a mix of one-to-one introductions to potential clients, making social media content, and trying to get your portfolio onto websites where there's already an established flow of traffic. Let me know in the comments which ones you need most help with, and I can dig a bit deeper into any of them to help you find more clients. Here's that video on social media I mentioned, and here's the video on emailing clients. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.